Welcome to Spotlight Reads. This is not a dystopia built on fear. It is a dystopia built on pleasure. We will now conduct a psychological examination of this design. We'll proceed through 6 chapters, mapping out the very architecture of its control. The foundation of the world state is not an ideology forced upon its citizens. No, it is a biological imperative engineered into their very cells before they are ever decanted. You see, the system's first and most profound act of control is to seize the means of reproduction itself. The main tool for this control is Bokanovsky's process, and it's described not with the language of politics, but with the sterile, clean language of scientific progress. A single egg, a single embryo, that's seen as inefficient. The Bokanovskified egg, though, that's different. It will bud, it will proliferate, it will divide. This is all achieved through a series of calculated arrests of development, X-rays, chilling, doses of alcohol, that check normal growth and, by doing so, force the egg to replicate. And the result? Up to 96 identical humans from a single source. This is the industrialization of life itself. Humanity becomes a predictable, standardized, manufactured product. As the director of hatcheries says with a kind of tremulous enthusiasm, 96 identical twins working 96 identical machines. You really know where you are for the first time in history. And that is the key. The control is absolute because it doesn't present itself as tyranny. It presents itself as rational scientific management. It isn't brutal, it's just efficient. It is not sold as oppression, it is sold as progress. Now, this biological mass production is not random. Far from it. It's the mechanism for creating a meticulously stratified and permanent social structure where every citizen is predestined for a specific function before they're even conscious. The caste system is the operational blueprint. Alphas and betas are allowed to mature with relative normality, but the lower castes, gammas, deltas, and epsilons, they are deliberately handicapped while still in the bottle. They're starved of oxygen to stunt brain and skeletal development. They're conditioned with heat, X-rays, and chemical treatments to create a perfect alignment between their physiology and their unescapable social destiny. In such a system, any deviation is a flaw. Bernard Marx, an alpha who is physically smaller than his caste dictates, is acutely conscious of himself as an individual. This self-awareness, this sense of being separate, is the source of his profound misery. In the world state, to feel oneself as a distinct I is to be defective. And that brings us to the final logic of the system. Individual identity is simply inefficient. It's a source of friction, unpredictability, and instability. The unique self is not something to be discovered, it is a problem to be solved, and so it must be engineered and conditioned away for the greater good of a stable society. For any emotional inefficiencies that conditioning cannot entirely erase, the system provides a simple, universal, and chemical solution. This mechanism is called Soma. It is not a recreational drug used for pleasure. It is an instrument of emotional management. It offers, in the state's own words, a holiday from reality. Whenever a gloomy sentiment arises, frustration, sadness, doubt, a dose is taken. The difficult feeling is not processed or resolved, it is simply erased. Soma provides the blissful escape of intoxication and the consoling transcendence of religion, but without any of their destabilizing side effects. No hangovers, and more importantly, no complex mythologies or moral demands. It's pure, unadulterated chemical peace, ensuring individual stability by making difficult emotions obsolete. This is the system's quietest triumph. Suffering, moral conflict, and existential dread are not confronted. They are pathologized as minor biochemical imbalances to be corrected. The state doesn't need to enforce obedience when its citizens willingly medicate their own humanity away. A gram, the saying goes, is better than a dam. The engineering of the world state extends beyond the individual mind and into the very spaces between people. Interpersonal relationships are also designed to be frictionless and therefore harmless. This hypnopathic proverb, repeated thousands of times into the ears of sleeping children, is the core doctrine. It dismantles the very concepts of loyalty, exclusive love, and the family unit. These are all seen as sources of dangerous, destabilizing passions. The logic is clear. Intimacy leads to exclusiveness and emotional friction. Monogamy, romance, and deep personal bonds create private loyalties that compete with an individual's loyalty to the state. Promiscuity, on the other hand, is a social lubricant. By ensuring constant, shallow stimulation, it prevents the formation of any relationship deep enough to cause instability. Into this perfectly balanced and sterile environment, an anomaly is introduced, an individual who was born, not decanted, a man who grew up outside the system, in a savage reservation. John is an anachronism. His mind was formed by the works of Shakespeare, so he understands passion, jealousy, sin, nobility, and sacrifice. He embodies everything the world state has identified as a threat and systematically eliminated. His very existence is a challenge to its fundamental premises. John's essential tragedy is that he demands the right to a humanity that the world state has defined as obsolete. He claims the right to be unhappy, to want something he cannot have, to suffer for art and for God. The system cannot fight him on these terms because it does not possess the language to even comprehend them. The conflict between John and the world state illuminates the fundamental transaction that underpins this entire society. It is not an arrangement imposed by force, but a contract willingly entered into by its populace. This is the central exchange. The citizens of the world state have traded the turbulent, often painful, complexities of genuine humanity for a guarantee of comfort, safety, and stability. They have surrendered truth, beauty, and meaning in exchange for a shallow but persistent contentment. History is dismissed as bunk. Passion and remorse are traded for a prepackaged identity. The freedom to be miserable is surrendered for stability. And God, soul, and art are exchanged for happiness. We must be clear on this point. This society did not fail. It is not a cautionary tale of a system collapsing under its own weight. It succeeded, completely and utterly on its own terms. Its great triumph is that its citizens do not see their condition as a loss. They have agreed to the trade. This is Spotlight Reads, Face the Abyss.
This is not a dictatorship built on fear. It is a system built on pleasure. In Brave New World, control does not punish. It comforts. Pain is removed. Conflict is medicated. Desire is managed, but satisfaction comes at a cost. Depth, contradiction, and meaning. Art is dangerous because it unsettles. Love is dangerous because it creates loyalty. Suffering is dangerous because it creates truth. When happiness becomes mandatory, freedom becomes unnecessary, and the prison no longer needs walls.